Fix It friends, this is Fix It with Fran, where I talk about all things faith, family, food, and fun. This morning I am doing some little planty projects, so I wanted to come check in with y'all because I am, again, it's What's Growing Wednesday, so I wanted to let y'all see what's growing on in this house and to share with you some updates that I have. So let's go. Right here I have Marble Queen pothos. So these little planters right here are actually a gift for a friend. So the planters are not the gift, the actual plant is. So one of my colleagues had some plants in her office that during the pandemic, when we weren't in the office, they faded out. So I told her, I'll put something else in there for you. So I've been propagating these for a while. And these were some, I think, what's the angel plants? Exotic angel plants that I had in my collection. This one may actually be from a place in New Orleans that has now closed. What was it called? Plant something. If I remember the name, I'll put it in a little pop-up here. But this one, when I got it, it was a clearance plant that maybe I got for like $4 or $5. This is back when Brazils were very, very popular and you weren't able to just find them at Lowe's or Home Depot. So I got it, really cut it down because it wasn't doing good. I think whenever I initially got it, it had some, not fungus gnats, but it had some, I think maybe mites, or not mites. I think it were mites, little mites, because I had to point it out to the person whenever I was getting it that it needed to be treated. And I think I sprayed it with alcohol, that kind of thing. So this is completely rehabbed, and I have another piece. So I grabbed this out of one of my pots, a little propagation Frankenstein kind of pots, and put this here. And then this Marble Queen needs a little bit more water. I just watered it today. It was in my home office, and that room gets really hot during the day. So sometimes those plants wilt up a little bit, and it's very bright in there. But usually when you have a Marble Queen and it's getting enough brightness, the leaves will be more white, like this one here is. So this is a newer leaf. So I'm going to give her those. And I'm excited because that's one of the things I love about being a plant friend and having my plant pals is that you're always able to pass on some of your little propagation projects. I do know that the, exotic angel plants, I think they have those little warnings about no propagations or whatever. But my way of kind of getting around that or working within those constraints is that I don't sell the plants. I just give them away to my friends. So that's one thing. Like if you want to propagate plants, just make sure that you're aware of any kind of warnings or any kind of limited trademarks that the plants have. And if you want to be mindful of that and just keep yourself in a safe space, just give the plants away. Don't sell them. That's kind of my workaround. But again, it's not legal advice per se, so don't take that to be in the court of law that ignorance is not, ignorance of the law is not lack of. There's a phrase that we learned in my business law class, and I can't remember. But basically, it means just because you don't know the law and you're ignorant of the law does not give you innocence of the law. I think that's it. Ignorance of the law does not equate innocence of the law. So know the laws, y'all, when it comes to propagating plants. That's all I'm getting at. On to the next. So I don't know if y'all remember. This is from the last What's Growing Wednesday update that I did with my African violets. Trying to find a little pointer here to show y'all, but I'm gonna use my dirty nail because I've been digging in these plants. But if you look really closely here, those little green spots right in front of my fingertip, I'll put a pointer in the video. This is that African violet that fell off of the counter. As you'll notice, all of these leaves are still very dark and happy, and they're not wilted, which tells me even though I just stuck these in the dirt versus putting them in water, that they're enjoying this current setup. So I'll give you a contrast. This leaf right here was on the original plant, and see how the stem is completely withered away and like shrunken up, and the leaf is it's really, really limp, and it's got that black spot on it. That is when you know that if this were a true propagation and I had stuck it in the soil, this would be when you would know that this did not take, or it did not root, or the leaf just wasn't happy and gave up the ghost. Compared to these other leaves here, this leaf right here is actually still attached to the original plant. So again, I thought that this had some life in it and the plant might bounce back. But all of these other leaves on the perimeter, I just stuck down in the dirt. So hopefully these propagations take and will give me up some new plants. But so far it looks like all of them are still keeping their color, even that one there has some red to it. They're very firm, they're not floppy, and that's a way to know that your African violet propagation is doing well. I kept this still in one of my self-watering pots, so it's got water coming on it constantly and it's doing pretty good. But what I wanted to show y'all here is that these little green spots are new leaves that are popping up. new little suckers. And there's another set in between those two stems right there. So like I told y'all, I was going to leave this in the pot even though it had taken a tumble and was no longer the pristine condition plant. And it looks like I'm going to keep my fingers and toes and nose crossed, but it looks like I'm going to get some plants that rebound from this. If not from the original plant, 2 sections, definitely from these propagation sections. So wanted to share that update with y'all because I'm really excited. On to the next. So over here we have this African violet I showed y'all last week. Yes, this is Modesty that came from Selective Gardener. And I did want to point out too, like last time I was saying that I thought this pink might be from that additive that I put in the water. It is not. The Modesty plant, when I looked back on Optimara, will have this dark green with the white edges, but the new growth comes out with this pink coloration to the white on the edge. So this variegation is intentional. There's nothing wrong with this plant. And look at these flowers. Let me try to brighten it for y'all so y'all can see it. I was so happy when this started blooming more for me. Like, oh, love it, love it, love it. So I'm still very pleased with this plant. And I made, the first year that I had it, I got this as a full plant. So I think this might have been like $6 or something on the site. I'll look back and see if I can find the records. But the first year I didn't want to interrupt it at all. Like I didn't want to put it into shock, so I didn't try to propagate any of the leaves. But going into these subsequent years, I think I'm going to try to propagate some. And again, just to expand my collection or give it away to friends. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, now the flowers have opened. I think when I did the previous video, these buds were still closed. So I wanted to show y'all that. Next up, there's a couple of different African violets. I have this little wooden shelf in our kitchen, but down in here, this is one of those plants that I dropped at the last update, and I told y'all that by the time I did another update, I should have some new blooms. Ta-da! Blooms are coming up, and I can't remember what color this one is, but I think it's one of the ones that I got from Walmart, possibly. It's at least in one of those Walmart pots. Again, for comparison, this is my hand, and this is the full size of this plant, so it's a big one. But maybe one of the ones I've had for longer. It almost looks like, I don't want to tempt myself in breaking the flower, it almost looks like it's going to be purple and white. I don't know if you can see that there. See if I can zoom in for you. Yeah, it almost looks like, uh-oh, blurry. It almost looks like it's going to be white with some purple accents or vice versa. So we'll see. Next. All right, hoping this lighting comes through. So this is another one of the African violets that I showed y'all last week. I think when I showed it to you all, it either had no blooms or some very small growths that I wasn't sure what they were going to become next. But after that dropping episode, it definitely has put up some flowers for us. So I was super excited to see that. Sorry, trying to get to a place where the light's better. There we go. Got that glare out the background. And this is one of those ones that has a really deep purple color in the center. And let me pause. Was something about the zoom that was on, so I got that fixed now. And this is what this plant looks like. But I wanted y'all to really get to see the detail of the flower. This is the only flower I have that's like this, where it's that solid, deep purple in the center with that white edge and the kind of scalloped frill of the flower. I like that one. Just because it's so different, it makes it very unique in my collection. I also wanted to show y'all that this, I think this one is Rocky Mountain, is still going and growing and blooming and booming and looks amazing. And these are the same set of blooms and flowers that were in the last video. So that also kind of shows you just the longevity of these blooms sometimes. When they're happy, when they're in a good space, when they're getting the right amount of water, especially for me with allowing them to self-water, it really works wonders for the plants and can give you some great longevity with your blooms. Next. So this is one I've been wanting to show y'all for a while. This is a African violet that's in our master bedroom. And I haven't done a video in this room in a hot minute. But just again, to give you an example, this is my hand. And that is the full size of blooms that are happening on this plant. It is ridiculous. Like, how wild is that? Like, that's how big this is right now. Crazy. And they have been blooming, doing it the thizzle. They have just been going and growing. And I think I probably need to, add some more water to this pot. So I will be doing that today. Over here, there are some orchids in bloom that have been going for a little while now. So they've been really nice, really happy in their setup. These are all kind of sitting around our jacuzzi tub in the bathroom. So that one right here is, I think, one of my rescue orchids from Lowe's that I got. I had no idea what color the blooms were going to be. So let's zoom in a little bit just to let you see it. But it's really, really nice. Really, really pretty. This one right here is another rescue that came from Lowe's. Had no blooms on it, completely bare. So I've been excited because I've been able to grow these successfully and get them to come back. This is my little DMX orchid that's still blooming and booming and putting out some new buds. It does have some faded buds there, but that's okay. And look what it decided to do. Right here, we have a new bloom spike that's coming off of this original older spike. And this flower has been in bloom since April of 2021. And healthy, healthy leaves. I don't think I've shown y'all this before, but I got the burro's tail from Home Depot. And this is one of my first real successes in growing succulents. Here is a Hoya rope, a Hoya Regalis. And the difference in that is that it has the variegated edges where you see that yellow or cream colored on the edges. So I propagated some of that in this small cup here. Got the other DMX orchid that's here chilling in the window. Let's see if I can give y'all some light to see it. Yeah. I love that kind of dusty rust color or that dusty peach that that flower has. So both of those are in bloom and in here chilling. And then there's just another Hoya Regalis in that burro's tail. So again, this window here gives us a lot of sun in this bathroom. So all of my orchids in here have been really, really happy in this space. I have a total of, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 orchids that are currently blooming in here, and another 1, 2, 3. Hold on, let me show you this little one right here. So this one right here is one of my Just Add Ice orchids that rebloomed for me. This is one of the ones that came in that order from Amazon where the order was pretty much damaged. So this one survived and again put out this new bloom from this original spike. So pretty. Also, I have this orchid right here, which was a rescue. One of my plant pals here in New Orleans, one of my plant partners, gave me this and said she was kind of done with it. If you remember, it had this tag on it before, and it's gone. It's blooming really, really well. So I've been happy to be able to recover a plant and get it to bloom for me. This is another first for me. And you see there in the middle, it has some new little buds coming up. So it's still growing. I think right now it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blooms on it, and 2 new buds at the bottom. You can see it better from this angle. Yeah, 2 new buds at the bottom. You can see it better from this angle. Okay, so over here I have some plants that are soaking. This is one of my orchids that had a named ID tag. This is that Phalaenopsis Dance Valley. Reminds me of P-Valley, if you know that show. But it took a tumble this past month, so it fell off the side of the bathtub, which is another reason it's over here on the counter. But it has so many gorgeous air roots that have grown since it's been in my care. This is one that I also put in one of those orchida pots, so you can see here where the moss that it came with is still down at the bottom. Again, because it was so entwined and intertangled and just kind of enmeshed in this sphagnum moss, I didn't try to remove it because I was afraid of breaking roots that looked really healthy otherwise. So I put this in this pot. I do try to let it dry out in between having the water in it, but as you can see, it's grown some new roots for me as well. It has some original roots that are still very healthy and green, and again, these new air roots on the side, so it's chilling. So hopefully, I don't know if the shock sometimes can make it also bloom, but even though this leaf split, it otherwise looks healthy. This leaf also cracked from the fall, but it's still growing, so I'm still holding out hope. I have another one right here that is currently just soaking in water, so I let some of these soak, and then I will put them back in the jar and just let them dry out with no medium or anything in the pot. So far, this has transitioned and put out this new leaf for me, so at first I didn't know what this one was going to do, but it's been happy. And then I have this kind of big Bertha of a Phalaenopsis. It has not put out a new bloom for me. This is the old spent spike, but it has grown out a new leaf, and it's grown out a new leaf at the full extent of the older leaves. So I mentioned that because sometimes where you're growing orchids, you will see a moment where you get a new leaf and it grows out really stunted or smaller, like this one. But for me, this is a sign that this orchid was happy in this spot. It's across from that big window in our bathroom, and it grew out to the full length. So yeah, that tells me this orchid is happy in this spot. It's happy with the current care that I've been giving it, and hopefully it won't have to go through that period of being stagnated or having stunted growth and then having to rebound back. Like this orchid will have to rebound back a little bit before I start getting full length leaves again. Although this is still growing, so it might be okay. But just for an example, sometimes you'll get a leaf and it'll stop growing at a much shorter point than an older leaf. So that tells you that this orchid had some transition. It might have had a period of shock, like coming out of medium into this. But it was not happy in the medium. You can see some of these older roots where it was like they were soggy roots, and I stripped them off and just let them stay. So this one has been semi-water-cultured in a glass vase that's over on the tub. Whereas this one here came to me from Whole Foods, was really, really healthy, and I liked the pot and kept it set up. So this is one that had like a waterfall orchid at the top where they trained it to grow up this little frame, and had some gigantic white flowers. But I've been happy with it, and I'd like to see how it has responded to the care that I've given it. So just to know, if you get your orchid and it keeps growing and your orchid leaves are the same, that's great. But if you do see one where the leaf grows out much smaller, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just your plant telling you that it needs some time to transition. So keep your eye on it. Again, always monitor your plants, and know that if you get this full length and it's doing all right and there's no other signs of concern, that you may have a successful transition into your home. So just keep your eyes on your plants, y'all. And last but not least, I wanted to show y'all this other African violet because I don't think it's ever been spotlighted, or if it was spotlighted, it's been a while. So it has some blooms that are fading. This is in another one of those self-watering containers that I love. And I also just really like the spread of this flower. So you see really more like ruffling on these edges, and they're so pretty. And they have the 3 petals that are that dark, deep fuchsia, and then 1 or 2 petals or 1 section of it that's that lighter pink. Again, I think this, if I had more room in Monica's room, this one would work its way up there. I may be able to find some room on her dresser now that we've moved her television, but I will come in and pull off these faded ones. I do it really gently because you can still have more blooms come out from a spike, but I don't like to let these dead blooms sit for too long, because we know when you have dead material on your plants, sometimes that becomes a hosting ground for mold or just funguses as well as pests. So I don't like to leave them on there for too long. So I will be pruning these off and then just freshening it up so that it can continue growing. Yep, see right here? Sorry, in front of my pointer finger, that's a new flower, but that's coming up opposite of one that's spent. So I like to get these spent flowers off so that the plant can reserve its energy for putting out those new blooms, and it just makes the plant look better. So that's what's growing this Wednesday. I hope y'all are having a good one. I pray that your day is prosperous and blessed. And as always, this is Fix It with Fran, where I talk about all things faith, family, food, and fun. I truly believe God has given us all gifts and talents that can fix some problem that exists in the world. So I want to remind y'all, even though we have a lot of problems and a lot of challenges, that we can all fix something. So till next time, I pray you would find that thing and fix it. And let me know down below, what are you growing, or where are you going? Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for being one of my Fix It friends. As always, remember to like, subscribe, even share it if you want to, but you ain't got to. I'm glad to have you here. Till next time, y'all. Bye.